In our last episode, a young king was forged in fire and prophecy, uniting Greece under his command. Now, Alexander of Macedon set his sights on an empire that had terrorized his people for generations. Persia, in 331 BC, after two previous victories, the fate of the world would be decided on a dusty plain in modern-day Iraq. It was the Battle of Gaugamela. Alexander was massively outnumbered. The Persian king Darius had handpicked the battlefield, a wide, flat plain he believed would give his cavalry and deadly scythe chariots the ultimate advantage. This was Darius's home turf, his perfect kill box, designed to swallow Alexander's small army whole. But Alexander refused to play by Darius's rules. He advanced his army at a strange oblique angle, seemingly trying to outflank the entire Persian left wing. This was a bizarre move. It looked like he was marching his army right off the edge of the battlefield that Darius had so carefully prepared. It was a feint, a masterclass in psychological warfare designed to provoke a reaction. As Alexander had brilliantly predicted, Darius took the bait and sent his cavalry to stop him. This desperate move stretched the Persian line, creating a small, momentary gap in the center, right near Darius's own position. It was the opening he had been creating all along. Alexander led his elite companion cavalry in a devastating, all-or-nothing wedge-shaped charge, not at the enemy army, but directly at Darius himself. The strategy was to decapitate the snake. Seeing the Macedonian cavalry charging straight for him, a spearhead of destruction aimed at his heart, Darius panicked and fled the battlefield for his life. The Persian army, seeing their king desert them, collapsed into a chaotic rout. With a single audacious charge, Alexander had shattered the greatest army on earth. It wasn't just a military victory. It was the complete psychological collapse of an empire. After Gaugamela, the Persian Empire was his. The ancient wealthy cities of Babylon, Susa and Persepolis threw open their gates. But Alexander's ambition knew no bounds. Driven by an insatiable desire, or pothos as the Greeks called it, a yearning for what lay beyond the horizon, he marched his army to the very edge of the known world. He pushed further and further east, through the harsh mountains of what is now Afghanistan and into the subcontinent of India. After 8 years and thousands of miles of constant marching and fighting, his loyal, veteran Macedonian army had finally had enough. They had conquered the world, and they wanted to go home. These weren't just soldiers, they were farmers, stonemasons, and fathers who had followed their king for nearly a decade, and their endurance had reached its limit. At the Hyphasis River in India, his men mutinied. In a display of incredible bravery, they respectfully but firmly refused to march any further east into the unknown. They stood before their undefeated king, not as traitors, but as exhausted men who had given everything. They had faced down Persian hordes, scaled mountain fortresses, and crossed burning deserts. But the prospect of another endless campaign into a continent of monsoons and war elephants was too much. For the first and only time, Alexander the Great was defeated not by an enemy army, but by the will of his own men. He was forced to turn back. It was a bitter pill for a man who believed he was destined to reach the ends of the earth. He returned to Babylon, the new capital of his vast, multicultural empire. At just 32 years old, he wasn't resting on his laurels. He was already poring over maps, planning his next great conquest, a campaign to subjugate Arabia and circumnavigate the entire continent of Africa. His vision was no longer just about conquest. It was about uniting East and West into a single, global civilization. But he would never lead it. In June of 323 BC, after a banquet, Alexander fell gravely ill with a sudden violent fever. For 12 agonizing days, the world's most powerful man was helpless, his body racked by an invisible enemy he could not fight. His generals and soldiers filed past his deathbed, weeping for the king who had led them to glory. The cause of his death remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Was it poisoned by a rival, jealous of his power? A sudden disease like malaria or typhoid, contracted in the swamps of Babylon? Or simply the cumulative effect of a lifetime of hard drinking and countless battle wounds, his body finally giving out? We may never know for sure. He died without naming a clear heir, and his final words were supposedly, "To the strongest." His death would plunge his brand new empire into 50 years of civil war, a chaotic end for a man who had conquered the world. His generals, the Diadochi, tore his empire apart, fighting each other for the pieces of his legacy. A world united by a single vision was fractured in an instant, a poignant reminder that even the greatest empires are built on the foundations of a single, mortal life. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. We'll see you in the next one.